What's up, guys? Today I'm going to do a quick review. I'll try to make it quick, right? But we're going to do a review on the Salomon Forces line. So if you're not familiar with Salomon, they are a shoe brand. They make other outdoor gear, but they are primarily started as an outdoors climbing shoe. So big time for hiking and mountaineering. And the first time I got introduced to Salomon when I was in the SEAL teams, and the Navy would basically give us a credit to go to one of the outdoor stores out in town, and it was called Extreme Outfitters, and we could go pick out some shoes that we would want to use for cold weather operations or mountaineering operations, because the stuff that the military was issuing, more of like jungle boots and whatnot, weren't really designed for the cold weather. They weren't really equipped for the terrains and the environments that we were working in. So we actually went to the civilian line and found companies that's actually what they specialized in. Now, there was certain features of the hiking boots and whatnot that weren't really advantageous for military use. Examples, some of them would be like have reds, oranges, and purples and these bright colors on them that you would see in like the skiing industry and stuff like that at the time. And these bright colors, obviously, you wouldn't want it, so we'd be in there painting the coloring in the shoes with like paint pens or markers or whatever, or putting tape on them. Sometimes we were even spray painting them, and years went on, and Salomon saw a need for or meeting that need for that military and law enforcement market, and they basically did a spin-off line called the Forces line. So military forces, special forces, law enforcement forces, right? So they started doing a line with the same Salomon technology, but now trying to meet the needs of the military. So getting out of the Navy later on, I needed some shoes. I purchased some Salomons. Then in 2016-ish, when they came out with the Forces line, I was working in Brazil, working in some environments with the Special Forces law enforcement there, and we were doing operations and training for fast roping, rappelling, going into the jungle, going into swampy, muddy areas, and then with lots of rain, and then going into areas that were urban and filled with obviously like concrete and tile floors and all the things that are within the culture down there and their architecture. So I bought this boot right here. This is actually the one I bought. And this one is the Forces Quest. And this is one of their older boots. And I've literally been using this one for years. I've been using this somewhere around like 2016 time frame, and it's still holding up. And this is a great boot it's a Gore-Tex. It's got, some mid insulation. You can see it's got some added plastic, rubber, whatever this material is. You can go on their website and find out exactly what that is. But this is basically, built up right here for doing rope work. You can see the middle is slick with a couple little notches here, which I've basically worn off over the years for fast roping and whatnot. It's got a nice tread, which is, decent for off-road, or off the, off trail, but it's not so aggressive that you can't use in an urban environment either. So nice, heavily constructed toe box there. And you can see after all the years, this is finally starting to wear. We're finally starting to get some separation. But again, I've literally been putting this boot through hell for, 9 years or so. And this has gone with me into cold weather environments up in Canada. We've done stuff in Central America, South America. We've done, search and rescue missions in the Bahamas after that major Hurricane Dorian, going through the rubble. And this shoe's just still lasted. And it was one of those things where I was just, I kept wearing it. I was like, let's just see when the shoe blows out and when I'm going to destroy this thing. And then it just never happened. So here I still wear this. I'm starting to get some separation now. But a few years ago, full disclosure, Salomon reached out to me because they saw I was wearing this boot and all the different stuff I was doing in it. And they had just reached out and said, hey, Rich, we see that you're using our Forces line. Would you like to try some of these other models that we have? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to try them out and test them out. So they sent me a few other shoes. I said, I already have this one, and I'm pretty happy with it. So why don't you send me something else? So at that point, they sent me this one, which is the XA Forces. And you can see, again, this one I've just beat the hell out of. And it's very similar to the boot that I just showed you, the Quest. But this is going to be a mid-ankle versus a high top. And you can see here where it's got the ridges, again, for fast roping, for doing rope work. Again, it's got that sneaker sole, which is good universal between urban environment or, going onto the trail or in the woods, right? A little bit heavier duty up here. Got that wide toe box. You can see the extra stitching and whatnot. And this has got some insulation to it. So again, you can use this for a cold or warm environment. This is Gore-Tex. And again, this is good. These two are great boots. They're a little bit, I don't want to say they're heavy, but when we get into this line of the Forces, these are significantly heavier than the Speed Cross ones and the Speed Assault. Obviously, it's a named Speed. They're lightweight. But these are more geared toward military law enforcement application. And I'm pretty sure that this one is actually being used by some of the special operations units in Europe, and even in the SEAL teams are actually getting this one. It was designed for that type of application. And again, this one has been great. One of the other ones that they sent me was the Jungle Boot version. Now, the difference in this, and they saw that I was working in Brazil, so they're like, hey, maybe this is going to be a good one for you since it's so hot down there and you're working in the jungles and stuff. And this is very thin. It's just this fabric here, this nylon fabric. So super lightweight. It's got some protection here for like your ankle bones. Again, it's got the beefed up insole. You can see what the tread normally looks like. This one hasn't got a lot of wear. It says 3D chassis. So they actually have like a frame in here to make this more rigid. So like when I try to twist it, you can see it doesn't really want to move. So for hiking and doing all that stuff, it gives you really good shoe support. Very good puncture resistant for stepping on stuff. The only thing with this boot for me was it gave me serious blisters on my heel. So I almost felt like this one fit like a half size too big. And regardless of how tight I got the laces, I still just got major rubbing in the heel. That's why this one still looks pretty, because I wore it a few times. I just couldn't break it in and it was destroying my heel. Not saying it's going to do that to you, but that's just what my experience was between the two. You can kind of see a little bit difference in the toe. This one, again, older model, but the toe, the outside is all the plastic, rubber, whatever material this is. And you can see on this one, it's kind of been internalized. So it's there, but it's underneath. And they kind of put this stitching where it kind of covers over it. They could probably explain what their thought process was on that versus it. But you can see it on this one too. It's the same thing where the fabric is on the outside, where this one, the fabric comes to the inside. So these are both comfortable for me. I didn't really see a big difference in the fit when I'm wearing them between the two. But I'm going to come to this one later. So this is more of like the military law enforcement line. Between the weight difference between these two, I wound up wearing this one a lot because it's a mid-ankle, but I really like the ankle support of this one as well. It really just depends on what you're doing, but I a lot of times, if I was going to grab between the two of them, the weight difference really isn't that significant. So in many cases, I wind up going with the Quest Forces here just to get a little bit more ankle support. And one of the things on these two, just a small detail, If you come in and you look at the laces between these two, I never blew out this lace, but this one has a thicker lace, a more beefy lace. And for some of the stuff, working on ropes and, having lots of friction come across the lace, I just felt a little more comfortable with this lace. Although this one never turned into an issue. Obviously, you can see it's still in good condition. One of the things to take note of if you're going to be doing fast roping or rappelling, these eyelets are metal, but they're enclosed. You can see they're completely enclosed. So some of the things when I was talking about hiking boots we had to modify, a lot of hiking boots have like a C-hook where it's like this that the lace goes through, but that becomes a snag hazard for any rope work. So what we'd wind up doing at the team when we were using anything that had those open C-hooks for the laces, we'd then have to wrap our shoes with duct tape to close that off, so that way the C-hooks for the laces could not get snagged on the rope and either get us caught on the rope or rip the rope or fray the rope. So one small detail to see here is that these are all enclosed, so they are compatible with doing your rope work, which is a small detail, but it's an important detail. Now, jumping over to the other part of the Speed Assault and this style line right here, which I started off with this shoe here, which is the Speed Cross number 6. And this one is like an off-road running shoe, like a trail running shoe. It's super lightweight. It's got some rigidity in there, so if you are running on the trails and you step on a rock or something like that, or a sharp stick, it's not going to puncture through the shoe. It's very comfortable to wear, and they have the Forces version of this, which we got last year. They sent us for the Protector Summit, an event we do. Salomon was one of the sponsors, and they sent all the coaches this shoe here, and it is super lightweight. I mean, this thing feels like there's nothing on your foot when you're wearing it. It's like a slipper. It's so light. You just got to feel it, right? Very comfortable shoe. And if you look at the bottom here, this thing is set up like a cleat. Obviously, I've worn this a lot. These are wearing down. This one I only use for running. So you can see the lugs are a little bit bigger on that. These big wide open lugs, this shoe acts literally like a cleat. And when I went onto the range with it for the first couple times, and I was running and doing some stuff, and I'd go and do like a step, like a power step, to change direction. When I was wearing a shoe like this, you get a little bit of slide. You know what I mean? But you still have good grip. This one is literally like a cleat. So if you're training outside, if you're doing trail running, if you're training outside like I do a lot of times on the range, here we have an outdoor shooting range. So this thing is awesome. Super comfortable, really lightweight. You can move really fast in it. Great traction. The downside is when you wear this thing into town and you ever go to like the restrooms, or like a public restroom, and they come in and the floors are just like slimy or greasy. You know what I mean? I don't know if they come in and they wash it with like lots of soap in the mop bucket and then they just leave the soap in there and don't really rinse it off. I'm not sure. I just know when I wear this one in town with these really soft rubber lugs, they're great on the trail. But like, for example, if you're standing inside at a urinal or whatever, as silly as it sounds, your feet just start going, and you're like, gotta bring your feet back in and they just want to slide out. So if I were to get in a fight in a public restroom, some dude comes in and tries to jack me it's like I'm wearing ice skates. But if we're on a dirt parking lot or the grass or on the trail, it's like I'm wearing cleats. One step up from this, and you can see the bottom is a little bit different. This is going to be this is their Speed Cross or Speed Assault number 2. So this is the older version, and this is the newer version of the Speed Assault 2. But if you look at these, if you look at the bottom of the Speed Assault 2, it's a similar lug pattern, but there's more lugs. So this one, the mid ankle, the Speed Assault 2, actually holds up a little bit better in the public, urban environment. You have a little more traction, but this thing still works like a cleat. And you can see these lugs kind of jut out to the sides. So lots of traction, really good. Now, you can see how tight the lugs are here in the middle versus if you look at something like this where you have a flat spot in the middle. This is going to be a little bit trickier for doing things like rope work because these lugs can get snagged up on the rope a little bit more so than the ones that are more designed for military application, law enforcement application right here. So this is a better, arch of the foot in the sole for doing those tactical application. This one is great for hiking. You can see that the sole is thin on these. So if you're hiking lots of heavy weight for extended periods of time, it can make your feet a little bit sore and tired. Although there is good stability in there, it's got a little bit of rigidity, not as rigid as these are. But again, great shoe for hot weather environments. You want to be fast and mobile. Here's the newer version of it. One of the things that they switched was if you don't know this about Salomon, when I first got Salomons and I had the lace, I'm like, what the hell do I do with this thing? And it was flopping all over the place. And then someone pointed out to me to read the instructions. And in the instructions, it shows you that they have a little pouch right here. So you can stick your laces, tuck them into the tongue there, and now it's nice and clean. Really cool concept, right? But now on the newer ones for the Speed Assault 2s, this comes in from the top. So you got that mid ankle, right? This comes in and then you just tuck that away from the top and it comes in right here. So these shoes right here have been through a lot. I've really beat the hell out of these shoes. I'll show you what a new one looks like in comparison. But even with all the wear and tear, you can see the color has literally changed over time. A lot of that's just dirt and stuff worn into the fabric. But on this new one of the things you can see is all the stitching is covered over. So all your stitching is actually sealed in. And one of the things that's unique about the Salomon shoes versus a lot of the competing brands that I've worn before is their stitching doesn't blow out. Like, I haven't had the stitching give out in any spots of these, right? I'm starting to get a little bit of a peel here, but it really hasn't happened yet. And
I think the sole is glued.
Yeah, it's glued in there. It's super sturdy, but I don't want to throw the other companies and call them out on the video because it's about Salomon, not about them. But a lot of the other companies that I've had, I'll wear them and you start getting the rubber separation between the sole and the toe. You start getting the stitches blowing out, and these lace eyelets start peeling out with all the wear and tear doing rope work. I haven't experienced that with these yet. But so just going about the Speed Assault and the Speed Cross, super lightweight, great for hot weather environments. There's not much insulation. Great off-road. Not the best for urban use, I would say, because of the soft sole. But this is one style line, and these are one style line. And then this past year, what Salomon came out with, this is the most recent shoe they've sent me, was their X Ultra Forces. And this one was basically, Salomon said, these are great lightweight, off-road. These are great hiking, military, but Salomon, again, was designed for hiking and mountaineering. And they said, well, how can we make like a hybrid, kind of take the best of both and meet them in the middle? And that's kind of what they did with this one, this X Ultra Forces here. So this one's a little bit more of a hiking boot with a military law enforcement flair to it. You can see they added this ADV-C chassis here for extra support across the middle of the foot. It still has a gap here for doing the rope work, so you're not going to get snagged, but it also has big lugs, but lots of them for good traction on the trail, but also good traction in an urban environment. It's got a rubber, like a rigid sole, so it's got you that support in here for stepping on sharp items, or if you're walking through rubble or like broken construction or rocks, you know, you're not going to get things puncturing through here easily. And it's got not as much cushion as this does, right? You can see the side walls on the shoe are a little bit thinner on this one than they are here. You got a little bit extra support coming up on the heel. So although we're not going to do that high top like this, right? They're going to shave a little bit of weight and give you a little bit more mobility. So you're getting that ankle support without as much fabric by taking these notches down here and doing so. And the other thing you can see is this sole is pretty fat. This one's pretty fat. And then these ones are really thin. So the sole size is kind of like in the middle, kind of meeting the best of both worlds, like we were saying. But this is a great shoe. This has been really comfortable. This also comes in Gore-Tex, or you can probably get it without Gore-Tex. It's got the beefed up toe, but again, it's not so overkill. Not that this one's overkill, but if you just look at the two, like they streamlined that toe box down a little bit. But it still gives you that good protection. So this is kind of like their happy medium shoe that is the hybrid between the two, more military line, more fast trail movement kind of line. So just depending on what your needs are, really would depend on which shoe I would recommend for you. But these shoes overall have been awesome. I normally blow through a set of shoes in maybe 3 or 4 months out here, just doing all the training that we do, working in Florida where, you know, in the summertime it's raining every afternoon and I work outside. So we're on the range, we're doing rope climbs, we're doing this, we're doing that. The shoes get torn up, doing the dog work, tracking in the woods, you know, going from hot environments to cold environments. The shoes normally don't last that long. And like I said, I'm still using this shoe and it hasn't given out yet. And I've had this for literally like 9 years. So it's been very impressive, the quality of the construction of these shoes. Super comfortable. Again, going over that, you just kind of figure out what is it that you need for your application. What environment are you working in? And this isn't all of them. If you're working in like a straight up cold weather environment, they have cold weather versions with way more insulation. And there's other variations of these, like this one here. You can get it in a low top where it's more like this. So these aren't all the shoes that they have, but these are the ones that I've had a chance to try. And just to give you my thoughts and feedback on them. Salomon again has supported our Protector Summit, and they sent this one for the coaches. So this is again the new version of the Speed Assault 2, the one you saw here, like an older version, and this was the predecessor. But again, super lightweight, right? You can see I kind of showed you the construction on that, but you know, great shoes. And if you have questions, specific questions, let me know in the comments below, or you can check out Salomon's website and read up the details, because there's a lot of stuff on the construction of these shoes that I didn't have time to get into in this video that is explained, and you can do a comparison on their website and identify which shoe is appropriate for your needs. So hopefully that helps introduce you guys to the Forces line from Salomon, and yeah, thanks for watching.